Shalom. In this lesson, I'm going to be going into the history of, specifically how Arsareth is America and the history, which I'll specifically be going into, which is going to be addressing how this came about. I'll be going into the history in which this was, went on to be known, and it's going to prove this and the history which made this going to be something that was known, documented, and put out. And what you're going to see by the end of this, Lord will, is completely true. I'm going to be going into that history, how this came about. All right, what you see on the screen, this was documented by the Jewish scholars, the so-called white man himself, on how Arsareth is indeed and was indeed referring to America in the Bible. But before I get going into this, call Halam La Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, Wahawah Kakodash, and double honors to the hopefully like elder, apostle, slave to be saved, Lord willing, starting with the elder men at the Great Millstone Church, on down to the rest that may be out here and been out here under the same doctrine, on to the Akim here at this faction of this hopeful elect assembly. We're also in on doing what they got to do, on to the rest of the Akim, doing likewise, and to the rest of you believers in on this as well. This faith of Yahweh Bashmel Shah. But yeah, in this I'm gonna be going into straight fact. And it's a fact that Arsareth is indeed America. All right, what you see right here. This is from the website studylight.org. This is known amongst those that are more on the scholastic terms of realizing the scriptures, the truth of the scriptures, and obviously disregarding, once again, factually, how so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians are the Hebrew Israelites, and in specifics in this lesson, how America was indeed Arsareth, which reproved the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians and even so-called blacks are the Hebrew Israelites, because they were the first ones to come here. So let's get into it. It says Bible Encyclopedias, the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia. This is the word Arsareth in the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia. So it says, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, and which, this is them quoting from it, and they put it on their site, from what, the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia. It says, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of the restoration, according to they put, it's supposed to be second Ezra, but they got a 9. But anyway, according to second Ezra 13 and 45, okay, which I'm going to go to real quick. All right. So you can see for yourself, if you didn't know this information has been brought up before, but like I said, I'm going into the history on how them saying this came about. And it's actually true. So this is second Ezra 13 and 45. For though this is dealing with who? The 10 tribes. All right. It says in verse 40, this is when Yahushua comes back, 39. And whereas thou sawest that he, being Yahushua, who people were ignorantly called Christ, Jesus Christ, gathered unto that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, because this is when he got done fighting, those that will come to subdue him out the sky when he comes back, which will be, NATO, the EU, the beast, you know, Confederates of now of America, the so-called white man, etc. Right? And then after he destroys them, he's gonna gather the remnant, the elect, the 1/3, which consists of the 144,000 and the innumerable multitude, all right, of some of the Israelite race, the so-called blacks, Latinos, the Native American Indians, the so-called Salakia, a few women, some children, and some men, and the 144,000 being all men, 12,000 from each tribe of the tribes of Israel, right, the race of Israel. But anyway, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away, and this specific topic is going into the 10 tribes that left, okay, that wasn't in the land of Israel when he came the first time. Because of this, it says those are the 10, but when he comes back, they're going to be still intact. So this is talking about his return. So obviously the Hebrew Israelites are still intact. They're still on earth to this day, all the tribes. So this is when he comes back. It says those are the 10 tribes which were carried away captive. I'm going to actually read 39 again. It says, and whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Oshea, the king, who Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. Now, it goes on to say what? But they took this counsel amongst themselves that they would leave. So that's what happened to them, all right? And upon going into that captivity, the Assyrian captivity, at the end of it, they left. They left the east. Pretty much all the 10 tribes left it. For the most part, they left completely. They left the eastern hemisphere, right? And it goes on to say where they went. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, right? So this is dealing with another place that they will go, a country where never mankind dwelt. So no one has ever inhabited and dwelt and built up this place before, right? So this is where they was planning on going. It says that they might there keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, for the Most High then shewed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. So they completely left the east and they came here west. And it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time. So they came to America. They left the eastern region, the eastern hemisphere, and came to the western region, the western hemisphere. It was west that no one ever, at that time, that no one had ever dwelt. It was known as the New World, or today now known as America. So it says, then dwelt they there until the latter times, meaning the end of the world. And now when they shall begin to come. So that's where they're going to be. All right. So that's it. So they came to America, which you're going to see this to be true. All right. What's they saying? This is from, so-called white man himself. So Arsareth in the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia, it says what? It says this goes into, as I said, the name of the land of the great river far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell. Exactly, until Yahushua comes back, observing the laws of Moses. They didn't do that to the best. They didn't do that, but they did it to their best of their ability for a point in time. Until the time of the restoration, right, when Yahushua comes back, according to, that's supposed to be 2 Ezra 13 and 45. But this is indeed what this is referring to. This right here. All right. It says Columbus identified America with this land. And this what makes this true, because this is how he found America. But we gonna get there in a second. So as you see, so now we're gonna get another place that's quoting this. So this is from the academia.edu. All right. So there, this studylight.org, they're, you know, witnessing this 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia, which was obviously made by the so-called white man, Jewish scholars, you know, and we're going to get the specifics in a minute because obviously it's true. And we have a second witness doing the same. All right. And I want to actually get that for you Bible believers that believe in the Bible. All right. Because the Bible is a history book, but it's obviously the word of God. So those of you that believe it, so we're going to go here. This is 2 Corinthians 13:1. This is the third time I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. Why is Paul saying that? Because that goes back to what? That goes back to the law. All right. That goes back to the law. It says, Deuteronomy 19:15, one witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of two witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 shall the matter be established. So that's how you establish matters. And I'm gonna get the one in Matthew 18. You know, I'm gonna actually come here. You can read that for yourself. This is a quicker one. This is St. John 8:17. It says, I'm going to start at 16. And yet, if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I and the Father that sent me. Right. Why is he saying this? Because he's a Hebrew Israelite, he keep the law. He know, and Yahushua, who people call Christ, he kept the law perfectly. So he knows that matters to be established not by just one, but by 2 or 3. So that's why he says, and yet if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone. I got somebody else witnessing what I witnessed, right? But I and the Father that sent me, and that being the Most High in this regard. But it says, it is also written in your law that the testimony, meaning the witness, support, right, avocation, right, of 2 men is true, right? But it got to be according to the scriptures, okay? So that don't mean you just like everybody you could have a bunch of so-called people, white people saying that so-called Christ is a so-called white man, or David is a so-called white man. Well, will that stand in that case? No, it wouldn't stand in that case, because that's not according to the scriptures by any means. They'd be so-called black men. All right. So that's how you do that. Okay. It got to be if a man speak not according to this, it is because there is no light in him. Isaiah 8:20. Now, are you saying this is talked about? Yeah, America's in the Bible. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so that's why this standing true at this point, because you're going to find out with the second witness being academia.edu, who also is witnessing what the studylight.org is witnessing, which is what the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia says Arsareth is, and that being what America is true, and we have every reason to believe it's true, because this is being sourced, by scholars, the so-called white people themselves. So it says a historical research of the 10 tribes scattered into the nations. This is by, so-called Jewish people, the fake Jews. But it says what? Because how we know, Liebenberg, Dr. Professor W.A. Liebenberg. Now, Hebraic Roots Teaching Institute. Okay, so Here you go. You got some of the people, professors, with their credentials. You went to the University of Georgia, right? All you people that, even though we don't, we bear the spirit bear witness that we are the children. But the time is coming, the Lord say, prove all things, man. All right. And this is just once again going into how Arsareth is America. Harvard, Columbia, these the people that's completely, you about to see cosign this. So we're gonna jump down. It goes into it just off top. Introduction. What does it say? The apocryphal book Ezra says the righteous 10 tribes moved out of Assyria and the cities of Med to Arsareth to get away from sin. All right, and you go on and read it. You are about to embark on a journey to the mysterious and hidden land of Arsareth. Now we're going to jump to what they say it is. So it says, the apocryphal writings in conjunction with Tanakh present a more complete record of the dispersion of the northern 10 tribes. Thus, the historical accuracy by the prophet Ezra is better understood when the details of 1st and 2nd Ezra are referenced, since this is where a more complete history of the dispersion of the northern king tribes is seen. See? Now, let's jump down. So you see a peaceable multitude. They quoting the same thing. Carried them in another land. Nobody ever dwelt. 45, the same place is called Arsareth. So they say the facts derived from 2nd Ezra 13. All right. The Most High will begin to deliver them. One shall undertake the fight against another, will be during a time of conflict. Signs shall happen, which I showed thee before. Then my son shall be declared, Mashiach, and innumerable multitudes shall be gathered. These are all facts according to scriptures. It is right. Willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. He, Hamashiach, shall stand up on top of Mount Zion. He will destroy them without labor. By the law, says Mashiach, will gather another peaceable multitude unto him. Those are the 10 tribes who were carried away over the waters. Fact 1, we established as, okay, they say Jordan's upper and lower rivers. Now, into another land, we have established that it is Assyria, city of the Medes, right? That's when they was going into it. Then what? After that captivity was over, they counseled among themselves. These are the facts they saying they got it. Got from it. It says that they will leave the multitude of the heathen in Assyria and Med. Fact 3, only after arriving in Assyria and Med, then they counseled amongst themselves these heathens to leave them for a better place, to return to Hashem's ways, which is the Father. How, the name, they say Hashem because the Lord's name is dreadful among the heathen. They're heathen, all right? Now, they go into a country no man ever dwelt, another country, and where they settled in a new area piece of land, where nobody dwelled and where they will not be oppressed. Now, they're going to say some crap right here. We have already established blah, blah, blah. Now you jump down. Watch this. It says the same region, they're going to go into a year and a half. That country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth. Okay, which area was this called Arsareth? And they were there until the latter time. So it says, fact 7, the tribes and form of Joseph's dress and culture must still be heavily present in this geographical area and will remain here to the latter times, which when Yahweh shall come back. Now, the name Arsareth, it says what? That's a bunch of madness. We're just going to jump to the point. Bunch of extra stuff. I'm beating around the bush. Now we're going to deal with the location of Arsareth. It says what? Many authors, researchers, and Bible students are striving with unrestrained effort to pinpoint the exact location of Arsareth. Here are some findings. The Jewish Encyclopedia gives no fixed location. How? What do you have? The name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration. According to the same thing, Columbus identified America with this land. See? So there you go. So all these people who put this together, they Salakia's thing stuck. Yeah, here we go. This is what they that's what they put. It's America. Everybody knows it's America, man. Now we're gonna go to where they're quoting this from, which is the Jewish Encyclopedia. And you see it says it right on here. Columbus identified America with this land. All right, and this is from the actual page when it was wrote. Arsareth. Okay. Columbus identified America with this land. Now, that's 100% true. Now we're going to go into the history on how they know this. All right. But before we get that, let's just, fact check the Jewish Encyclopedia. Who owns the Jewish Encyclopedia? It was originally published in 12 volumes between 1901. This is why this site is quoting the 1901 Jewish Encyclopedia. Right? And here go the Jewish Encyclopedia. Background. Okay. A descriptive record of the history, religion, literature, and customs of the Jewish people from the earliest times to the present time. So not Jewish, but the Israelites. Because they're Jewish. These people that's making this. They're going in, they record and research the history and our religion and our literature. All right. Now, the encyclopedia's manager editor was Isidore Singer, which is this guy. Well, no, not this guy, this guy. He was an American encyclopedist and editor of the Jewish Encyclopedia. All right. He was born in 1859 in the Austrian Empire. All right. So he moved here, where he learned English and taught French, raising money for the Jewish Encyclopedia he had envisioned. So it says, over the course of his career, Singer also proposed many projects which never won backing, including a multi-million-dollar loan to aid Jews of Eastern Europe, a so-called Jewish university open to students of any background, various encyclopedias about secular history. And this is what they put in a 25-volume publication series of Hebrew classics. Yeah. The date of this latter proposal, neither the Jewish Publication Society, nor anybody respectable, nor anybody of respectable scholars will work with him, according to Encyclopedia's Cyrus Adler. So he held extremely liberal views, which at times proved unpopular. He endorsed so-called Jesus, Yahushua, and the Christian New Testament, and proposed a Hebrew translation. So there you go. So the Lord put it on this dude to see, it for what it was. Because he ended up getting commissioned by the guy who set all that up. So he was adverse to everybody, which if usually you see the truth, you're going to be called something like a liberal. You open-minded, All right. Or, as you see right here, as a synonym, enlightened. Now, when we jump back to the encyclopedia, it says what? The encyclopedia's manager editor was that guy, Isidore Singer, and the editorial board was chaired by Isaac K. Funk. Now, when you go to Isaac K. Funk, this is him. So-called white man. 1839 is when he was born. He was in a theological seminary, and that's what he put on. He. It says what? Jump to the point. All right. So this guy was these dudes was I say for lack of better words of revered. You know, he was a prohibition candidate for mayor of New York. And what is the prohibition candidate? Slocky, the prohibition thing about that's the Prohibition Party, which they say was the oldest minor U.S. political party still in existence. And they wanted him to be for mayor. All right. So that's just some history, some quick history on these guys. That's responsible for what? This Jewish Encyclopedia. Okay, so I believe I covered everything on that. There's one more thing I do want to get regarding this guy too. Because he got the rabbi. He got the rabbi. What is it? The rabbi. And all these things source. You just got to know how to, go to the sources. Okay, but anyway, he got the where is that? From 1901 until 1906, Funk and Wagoner's compiled the Jewish Encyclopedia. See? And this is the dude they put on. They put on it. This guy. So they teamed up. All right. Lord set that up. So they can come put this truth in this book. In this encyclopedia. But yeah, it says on here somewhere that he was able to do what, the guy Isidore Singer couldn't. He ended up getting those rabbis, It says right here, this is the Jewish Encyclopedia. So it says, we ain't pushing no Talmud and all this, just to show you people, the credentials behind it. It says the Central Conference of Americans Rabbis, which have been contemplating a competing project, agreed to discuss collaborating with Funk and Wagoner's, thus securing the position of the Jewish Encyclopedia as the only major project of its kind. All right? So it just goes into the history of all of this. Now, that's how you got what? This Jewish Encyclopedia set up, which I'm going to go right back to. This is the 1901. All right. That's what they have listed. And you get the 1901 because that's the one that wasn't edited. That's the one that was unedited, which it says on here somewhere. All right. I think it's on this one. I want to run through everything. It was originally published in 1901. Cover page, the 1901 edition, which they say you can. It's not to be confused with similar work, the Encyclopedia Judaica. Now, they made this crap in 1971. All right. So the Lord already had the truth come out, man. He wanted people to know this. I'm going to actually go ahead and get something to prove that real quick while I'm here. Then we go get the history, and that'll be it. So this is Wisdom of Solomon 7, the wisest man that ever lived, who was really, by the way. It says, for in his hand are both we and all our words, all wisdom also, and the knowledge of workmanship. So there it is. So the Lord, he teaches men. He makes men say what they say, you know? And why? Because the Lord, he wants his will played out. So he got people lying. He got people telling the truth. And this happened to be one of these things, you know? This is Sirach 18:1. He that liveth forever created all things in general. The Lord only is righteous, and there is none other but he. Right, and the Lord is not a man that he shall lie, nor is he the author of confusion. Who governeth the world with the palm of his hand, and all things obey his will, for he is the king of all. Right, so the Lord, he control everything. Everybody is do what they do off of him. It says, for by his power, dividing holy things among the profane. So you can clearly see that's how he made all his works. All his works are one against one, two against two, you know, and the reason why, so you can know a couple of those works would be good versus evil. So good help, and the reason why, because good will help you. Seeing good will help you know what's evil, and seeing evil will help you know what's good. All right, that's just how it goes. I believe that's in this chapter. You know, you can look it up. It's in Sirach. I'm not even gonna go there. Now, when you look on this website, it tells you, you know, you can go to the website and the unedited text of the Thawadi Al-Bashmial Shah of the original can be found at the Jewish Encyclopedia website. See, the site offers both JPEG facsimiles of the original articles and the Unicode transcriptions of all texts. So there you go. And that's what you have here. You know, I believe that's this might be volume 2. So if this is in volume 2, you know it's in volume 1, you know, period. All right. So yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. Okay. Now, what are these people referencing? Where are they getting this? Well, this information, or where they saying this Columbus identified America with this land. See, Caserlands, this is an author, right, who came with the book of, you know, the writings and documentation and history of Christopher Columbus. In this book, I'm gonna jump back here, known as the Christopher Columbus and the Portuguese Jews' participation in the Portuguese and Spanish discoveries. I believe I said that right. Yeah, Christopher Columbus and the participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. So he had Jews working with him. Now we jump down here to verse, because this is basically it. When you jump to page 12, all right, and this book been brought out before by the elder brother Manatazak. If I said the elder name wrong, Salakia. But yeah, man, I was meaning to, you know, have this book. Was this book limited? But I got everything in it that I need. All right, and this is where basically in these writings this dude Christopher Columbus, he had a undying, he had a relentless. We gonna get some of the history, but he had a relentless will, you know, to find and he had an obsession to find, where the Hebrew Israelites was at. He was completely entangled with Hebrew Israelites. Yeah, completely. And it's all laid out in this book. So, and a lot of, history, of different sorts. All right, because he was from Portugal. He was a navigator and etc. But I'm going to go ahead and get to this. It says, in 1472, we find him in Lisbon. Here are a few years later, he married. Here a few years later, he married Felipa Monez, whose grandfather was not, as some assert, of Jewish stock. Columbus was a skillful cartographer, meaning he made maps, and draughtsman. He supported himself by drawing maps, in which he also dealt, just as later in Andalusia he traded and printed books. He was no stranger to the Jews in Lisbon. Where is Lisbon at? Lisbon is in Portugal. All right, Lisbon it is in Portugal, as you see right here. All right, so you had Jakes, so-called blacks. You had the Hebrew Israelites living in Portugal. All right, through the diaspora. All right, and post sacking of 70 AD, and those that was left. All right, and prior to the sacking, Jake was scattered everywhere. You can read that in Acts the 6th chapter. All right, so this is how you had Jews. Matter of fact, let me just grab that real quick, just to back that up. This is Acts 6:1. And in those days, when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose, I'm gonna jump to the point. Acts 6. That's one, but that ain't the one I want. Yeah, Acts 2. Acts 2 and 1. And 2. And I'm gonna start at 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were was the high holy day which the Jews had to come back for. That was, scattered into other nations. They had to come back to Israel for. But anyway, it says they were, because that's according to the law, it says they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled the house, all the house where they were sitting, and there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of a fire, and it sat upon each of them. Now why? Because pretty much through the diaspora, you had Jakes that pretty much became like Gentiles. They became mingled amongst the nations, the heathen, and they were speaking other tongues and all of this. But they were all still Israelites. And the Spirit bear witness that we are the children of God. So at the end of the day, you're going to click, it's going to be synchronicity. So the Lord just pretty much had a vision showing them they was all the same. And as it goes on to say, and they were all filled with the Holy Spirit. Israelites get the Holy Spirit. And began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there is the point. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men. So they were all Israelites out of every nation under heaven. And they just came back because it was the high holy day. All right. And they, so that's basically it. So these were all Israelites. So that just bags the point of how Israel was, in other places prior to the sacking of Jerusalem. All right. And James, he actually makes this clear too, right? So James 1:1, James, a servant of God and the love of the Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. There you go. So all the Israelites were in places such as Lisbon, everywhere. So this is how we know what Christopher Columbus uh, because he goes. This is quoted from him. You know, is his we know his runnings. You know, and revealed runnings and dealings with the actual Hebrew Israelites in Portugal were real, according to that. You know, it's factual. It's a factual thing that you had Jews. What it says, he was no stranger to the Jews of Lisbon, whether he had intimate commercial relations with them or whether in his frequent financial troubles he obtained assistance from any of them. Because they sheep, they, you know, too open, too kind, you know. But anyway, it says it is difficult. That's how we are, so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native American Indians. This is how we lost the land to these damn devils. Because this dude was a devil. His name wasn't even Christopher Columbus. First of all, right? It says it is difficult to determine, right? But we know that in his will he requested, etc., etc., etc. Okay, we're gonna jump down to the point. It says, long before Columbus made his will, the Jews had disappeared from Lisbon. And he quotes a quote from him. I have had constant relations, he himself says, with many learned men, clergy, and laymen, Jews and Moors, and many others. And the Moors were Israelites too. These were all Israelites he was dealing with in Portugal. Spain, it says, well, Portugal. It says, yeah, Portugal. Now, okay, I'm going to jump to the point. Make sure because it's a lot, but I'm going to keep this straight to the point. See what I want to grab. Okay. We're going to jump. What is this? This is book. This is page 14. Now, here we go. Check this out. Now, this is dealing with pretty much, okay, this is dealing with the type of person he was. Okay, and you can read in this, what is this called? I forget what this called. Forget what it's called off the top of my head, so slocky about that. Sorry about that. Anyway, it says what? The above mentioned mathematician and royal physician and with other learned Jews of Lisbon. Jump to the point. During his sojourn of several years in Lisbon, which was interrupted by journeys to the coast of Guinea, Columbus worked very industriously, and that's something very powerful right there, heavy, because it was Israelites there, Jews was there, Judah was there. But anyway, it says Columbus worked very industriously and perseveringly to add to his mere knowledge. Pronounced that incorrectly. Sorry about that. It says of mathematics and geography, in order to carry out the ambitious plans which he had formed, which was what he was always obsessed with, getting to the new world. It's gonna go. Just listen. He devoted his attention to cosmography, philosophy, history, and similar subjects to carry out his ambitious plans. What was his ambitious plans? To find a new world. It's going to go on to say it. Several of his biographers say that he studied Aristotle and Duns Scotus, Philly, and Strabo, Josephus. Why is he studying the Josephus? Israelite historian, and chronicles, the church fathers, and the Arabian writings of the Jews. We are naturally led to inquire what were his favorite works. And you got to remember what this book is called, Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese Discoveries. He had Israelites working with him for what? People that spoke Hebrew working with him for what? And it's going into the things he was into because this is what this is titled: Columbus's scientific equipment, what he used to go on and achieve his ambitious plans. So it says these are things he studied. We are naturally led to inquire what were his favorite works, what books were really in his possession. The treatises which he studied with most zeal were Aeneas, Silvius, Historia, Rerum. This is in the this might be Latin, but how am I trying to say this? Yeah, which a lot of the things that because obviously he spoke that language, so things got translated over time, which is how he able to have his book, in English, right? So this is your proof right here, right? It says Historia, Rerum, Jitarium, Gestarium, and Bishop Pierre de Ali's Amigo Mundi. This latter work, now this is the point, is it may be incidentally observed had already in the 14th century been translated into Hebrew. Columbus's knowledge, and they said it afterwards was found in his library. See, Biblioteca Columbiana Cons Natos del Dr. D. Simón de la Rosa Lopez, Seville, 1888. They found it in his library. Once again, Columbus scientific equipment. Aristotle, Strabo, Seneca getting to the point that other Latin and Greek classics were derived from Pierre Diali's book, the Imago Mundi, which the Imago Mundi, that make me think of that image of, a so-called Jesus Christ. But anyway, it says was his constant traveling companion, and his copy of it is filled with his own marginal annotations. Besides Zacuto's astronomical tables already mentioned, he possessed, this the point, some of the works written by or ascribed Abraham Ibn Ezra. For example, the little book on the quote-unquote critical days. What's that? That's the Bible. It says, Liber de Numeris, and if I'm incorrect on that, Salakia, forgive me for that, but that's the little book for the critical days. But it's still gonna go on and tell you that's what he had, the Bible. It says Liber de Numeris es et diebus criticus, and then nativita basically going into nativity, right? Nativity. It says Ibn Ezra was an eminent man of learning. His name was honored by Christians as well as Jews. Zacuto doubtless called Columbus' attention to the De Nativitibus during the latter's residence, in Salamanca. He bought a copy of it in that city according to a note in his own handwriting, 41 Mar Vidis. Now, here he is. Later in Spain, he read with religious zeal the tract on the Messiah, which was written by the proselyte Samuel ibn Abbas of Morocco for the purpose of converting Isaac of Germente. It had been translated into Spanish in 1339 and into Latin 100 years later, which is around the time he'll be around, right? This book interested Columbus so much that he exerted, he took out certain portions. All right, 3 whole chapters. He was also very fond of this, the point, reading the Bible and the 4th book of Ezra, which was probably written by a Jew who lived outside of Palestine, according to his own assertion. The incentive that impelled him to plan his discoveries was not a love of science, but his interpretation of the prophecies of Isaiah. That's what propelled him to go ahead and start so-called discover America, because he understood pretty much the Lord showed him where Israel was going to be, where Arsareth was going to be. See that? And when you go on and read the rest of this, so that's where they get this from, man. That's where the Jews, that's where these so-called fake Jews get this from. You know? And he might have been a fake Jew himself by conversion, so-called, the Judaism. Because he had he was dealing with a lot of Israelites. In particular, he had one on board by the name of Luis. I think, did I close it out? Yeah, this guy. Which, you know what? Let me go ahead and jump down to this. Yeah, Khan. Let me, and they changed his image. I'm gonna do, Lord willing, I can do a lesson on this. But yeah, man, this dude, this is what, let me read it again. He was also very fond of reading the Bible. And the fourth book of Ezra. The fourth book of Ezra will be what? Second Ezra. Because they took Ezra in the Bible and Nehemiah, and then you got what's known as first Ezra, and then second Ezra, which will give you four Ezras. But they not called first and second Ezra in the Bible, in the KJV Bible. They known as Ezra and Nehemiah, and then you would just have first and second Ezra. But it's the same Ezra. So some people, they pretty much fourth Ezra is known as, second Ezra is known as the fourth book of Ezra. So he was very, very fond of reading the Bible in the fourth book of Ezra, which was why? Because it says, which was probably written by a Jew who lived outside of Palestine. According to his own assertion, Columbus himself, the incentive that impelled him to plan his discoveries was not a love of science. So now all the other stuff he was into, the cosmography, the philosophy, none of that. But this book he found, right? It says that impelled him to plan his discoveries was not a love of science, but his interpretation of the prophecies of Isaiah. So he knew that another land, because there was the when you go in further into the book, the Portuguese, they was famous for being navigators. So that's why Columbus is so big for discovering America. He was trying to come up. He was trying to make a name for himself, and he was commissioned to do it. So when he, read the Bible, he completely, he was like, man, that's it. A place where no man ever dwelt. He seen how Israel moved, and then it goes on to say, in Portugal, Columbus earnestly conceived the idea of making maritime discoveries by way of the West. See, that basically it was new land over there that was uncharted, according to the Bible. But he already knew that, according to the Bible, fourth Ezra, Israel was over there. So he wished to find a new ocean route to the regions of Cathay and Sapango, which were reputed to be rich in gold and spices, and also to the realm of priest King John, whose letter to Pope Eugene the Ninth or to Emperor Frederick III, a Jew, is said to have first published in the middle of the 15th century. So that's in the 1500s. Henry the Navigator had already conceived a similar plan, and the Portuguese kings never lost sight of it. This bold conception took firm root in the mind of Columbus, mainly through a letter which the great Florentine physician and astrologer Toscanelli sent to King João through the monk Fernando Martinez. So Yeah, man. And they was basically saying he was bugged out. You know, this dude was tripping. He's like, man, it's this land, but he read the scriptures. So this is where they get that from. I'm gonna get one more. All right. I'm gonna get one more. I think I'm gonna go to page uh 89. So let me jump down. So I'll be scrolling. And Lord willing. So, you know, we just hurry up, see. Tripping. 80, what I say, 89. Okay, kind. All right. All right. Slovakia. Okay, here we go. Jews in Columbus' feet. So there you go. You know? So there you go. 89. On August 2nd, the Spanish Jews, because it was Israelites, you know, in Spain, began their wanderings, which those Moors were as well. It says, and the next day, Friday, August 3rd, Columbus with his fleet of 3 ships, the Santa Maria, Pinta, and Nina, sailed to seek an ocean route to India and to discover a new world. Where would he get a goddamn idea about a new world? Where would he get this? It's plain, man. This is Sirach 39 and verse to the point 39 to 24. It says, as his ways are plain to the holy, unto the holy, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked. So the Lord is plain. You know, it's completely plain. Is clear. All right. The Lord said he was gonna what? You know, man, I'm gonna hold this. But he's gonna have truth spring out of the earth. So you should clearly see this, man. Where would he get the idea of a new world from? Jump back to the nitty gritty, man. You know, 2nd Ezra 13 and 45. As it says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. But that Arsareth place was what? Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves, who? The Israelites, the 10 tribes, to the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians who discovered America. They came to America. It says that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And what did Christopher Columbus so-called discover? America. But people were already here. He discovered it as if meaning no one was here. But the people that was here was the people they put to death. Is today known as the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians. So this place he discovered was that place, Arsareth. He's not known for discovering nothing else. And he wasn't the first to even come over. He had a brother named Bartholomew Colon. All right? So that's it. Arsareth, obviously, those 10 tribes were obviously the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians of today, because they were in America first, which was so-called discovered, right, and said to be the new world. By who? By Christopher Columbus. So that's it. And it's in the writings. It's in his books. His biographer said it. So Arsareth is 100% America, which is why you have all these people saying this. You know, this is why. Want to know why? Because it's true. It's in the Bible. This is what he used to find it. All right. I know I spelled that all jacked up, but it'll come up. I don't want to write this out. So that's basically it, man. He reaches the new world. And what you see, what was the new world? America. You know? The new world. He did not discover the Americas, nor was he even the first European to visit the new world. This is on history.com. Because see, the truth is coming out, man. The truth is coming out. What's the new world? America. America. See? How did he find America? He read the scriptures. He had Israelites with him, Jews. That's why the book is called what it's called. So this is why they put this. On August 2nd, the Spanish Jews began their wanderings. And the next day, Friday, August 3rd, Columbus with his fleet of 3 ships, the Santa Maria and the Pinta Nina, sailed to seek an ocean route to India and to discover a new world. You know? And who was on board? Hebrew Israelites. You know, were there any persons of Jewish extraction on the armada which under Columbus' guidance steered its course toward a new world? It was not easy for him to find men willing to accompany him on his adventurous voyage. Even persons guilty of crime were released from prison on condition they should enroll themselves among the recruits. And obviously who they would have to been Israelites, Hebrew Israelites that spoke Hebrew. What was to prevent Jews under the ban of expulsion? Because that's what was going on in the time. Now, who did he have on deck? It says persecuted. It says under the ban of expulsion, persecuted and homeless from taking part in the voyage. Right? If you locked up and they say you go do this, you don't want to be locked up. You being put to death. They They expelled everybody out of Spain that was Hebrew Israelites to a war with the Moors. You know, the Spaniards did. So if you're a Hebrew Israelite locked up and you get offered that, you're gonna join, man. But why did he need Hebrew Israelites on board? Among the explorer's companions whose name have come down to us, the complete list is lost. There were several men of Jewish stock. Men. These were Hebrew Israelites. For example, Luis de Torres, a Jew who had occupied a position under the governor of Murcia and who was baptized shortly before Columbus sailed, as he understood Hebrew. That's the first one you see, right? Chaldee and some Arabic. Columbus employed him as an interpreter. What did he need an interpreter for? The same reason he needed Hebrew Israelites on board for, because the new world he was going to was where the 10 tribes was at, Arsareth, right? And who were the 10 tribes? The Hebrew Israelites who spoke what? Hebrew. And that's how you have it, man. So it's just that simple. So the Arsareth is 100% America, right? And this is how this is true. And this is why they put this. All right? And this also proves that the Hebrew Israelites, the so-called Native American Indians and Latinos are the Hebrew Israelites, man. They're the 10 tribes. The 10 tribes are found among these so-called Latinos and Native American Indians because it has been mingling, but it's safe to say that, man. It's facts. It ain't nothing else you can say, you know? And they knew that because when they came over here, the very reasoning for why he had Hebrew interpreters, this dude being Luis de Torres on board, which I got a better picture than him. They done whitewashed the image. He looked like a straight so-called Latino, man. I mean, completely. You know? He was chosen by Columbus for his knowledge of Hebrew. For what? So there you go. But when they came over here, the same reason he had them all on board is found, and what they found is seen is how can I say it? It pretty much shows everything he did to be premeditated, and they understood and understood due to what was found here in America by the people that was here first, which would have had to be the Hebrew Israelites, who today are known who are today known as so-called Latinos and Native American Indians, Aztecas, all that crap, right? Which were what? Which were things of what? Hebrew writings, Hebrew artifacts. So that's basically it. I got one scripture. I'm going to hit play on the video, and that'll be it. This is Psalms 85 and 11. It says, truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. You know, when they came here, what they find? Let's get it.
If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you will go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box. It was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the Ten Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismiss the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee. Since it came from Cherokee country, they didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio and did you know that? Why not? The angle.
So there you go, man. All right. There you go. And all this is all, all the excavations they do and was prophesied to happen, and what would be discovered are bones and things like this. All of this. Okay. They would actually be looking. Esau would be digging up the earth. I ain't gotta get it, but I'll just pull it up real quick. 8:1, Jeremiah. At that time, saith the Lord, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah. Do what? Excavations, digging them up, right? And the bones of his princes, and to prove what we exist, we still here. And the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves. You know, that's completely scripture, man. I got one more, even though this is besides the point. So yeah, all this the Arsareth is America, and etc. I really shouldn't even bring this up. You know, I'll just leave this. But yeah, those things being also dug up is what? Artifacts, man. It's gonna be artifacts. 100%. Alright. So yeah, that's basically the point. You know? That's basically the point. Is why the Lord said, truth shall spring out of the earth. Psalms 85:1. And righteousness shall look down from heaven. So the people here, the Hebrew Israelites, you know, that were here, which is today the so-called Latinos and Native American Indians, you know, no matter what they went on to call themselves and was bugged out doing and rituals and going, you know, they came over here to not go off, but they had a problem with over here. Them going off and doing things outside of their customs doesn't disprove that they're not the people, because as we see, the things they actually came over here to do was found being done by them and being put on things that are actually of who they, you know, are and what's approved with being, you know, Hebrew, man, and commandments. So yeah, call halam la Yahweh ba Shmial Shai wa Harakak. You know, like I said, Lord willing, you better edify. Till next time, Shalom.